Welcome to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Bonatti alongside Ethan Euchre and world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. Alfred Bonatti. We have an exciting show lined up. Let's get right to it. So with all the craziness happening right here on Earth, some recent stories of big happenings in outer space haven't quite received as much media attention as they might deserve. Joining us to discuss is Colonel Eileen Collins, retired NASA astronaut, the first female shuttle commander, and author of Through the Glass Ceiling to the Stars. Welcome to the program, Colonel.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on your show.
Certainly. So now you've been called one of the most recognized and admired women in the world, from breaking barriers as one of the Air Force's first female pilots to commanding the space shuttle. So why don't you tell us really about your incredible journey?
Well, I'd have to say I like to use the word humility because I don't think I would have made it in the military or at NASA if I thought that I was some kind of I did it first, so I'm therefore great. So I think humility is the key. I spent probably the first 12 years of my career flying airplanes in the Air Force with a bunch of guys. And fortunately, I grew up with brothers and I hit it off really well with the guys. We had a great time. We had a great mission. I loved flying and I loved working as a team. I loved being in the military. But my dream was to go into space. And it had been that way since I was in fourth grade. And I've always admired the astronauts and thought, what a great career. I want to go up there and see what it's like to see the Earth from a distance. But the other thing is, I find myself, I kind of have an explorer type personality. I like to go new places and see new things. And I like to, they say invent, discover. I'm a little bit of a geek.
Mhm.
And my high school friends would all certainly agree with that. And I think that just took me the attitude I had of, I studied a lot. I was very shy. Want to use the word humble again. And, always not thinking about myself, but thinking about the mission. Why are we here and what's the purpose of what we're doing? So that's kind of my overall attitude and the strategy that I used throughout my life.
Walk us through with every detail a launch, from the preparation leading
Oh,
up
yeah.
to walking, through the tunnel out to the shuttle, to the feeling of liftoff, to the weightlessness, feeling weightlessness in space, looking down at the planet. I mean, just walk us through it because that's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. So honestly, the first thing I'd say is if you had not trained for it, you would be scared to death
I bet.
because it is a full body experience. All of your senses are just overwhelmed. But preparation is the key for the astronauts. So we prepare in simulators. We, work on the launch pad so we're comfortable just being out there. And my attitude as a commander, when I take my crew out to the launch pad, it's confidence. I want them to be confident. I don't want any fear. And so the attitude is you are the most trained in the world for this mission right now. But when you're strapped in and laying on your back and you're watching that clock countdown, your heart is beating very fast. And you'll see T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, T minus 6, the engines start. There's a lot of rumbling. It sounds like you're in a room that's burning, like there's a fire going on around you, and your
'Cause there
seat is
is.
shaking. And then you'll see T minus 3, 2, 1, and at T minus 0, there's a little bit of a jolt. The booster's light, you lift off. A lot of shaking going on in first stage. And the other thing is the acceleration. We reached 3 Gs. A G is a unit of gravity. And how I explain this to the general public is, let's say you weigh 100 pounds, round number, 100 pounds on Earth. If you could stand on a weight scale, that scale would register 300 pounds during the launch. And that's how much force is being applied to your body. So you go through that up to about 8.5 minutes. And MECO, main engine cutoff, MECO, everything goes, the engine shut down, it gets quiet, everything goes to 0 G, and things are floating. Like my helmet floated up, my checklist page is open, my tethers were floating, dust everywhere in the air, floating around. Is very eerie. Just as a very strange, unusual sensation that we can't really imitate it here on Earth. The microgravity, and it takes the body quite a while to get used to it. I mean, it's kind of a nonlinear adaptation. Most adaptation happens in the first day, and then the second, third, fourth, and by the time you get to about a week, you're pretty well adapted.
Mhm.
It's fascinating, but at the same time, is it a little spooky when you're in space and then you're looking back at the Earth? A little
Yeah, that's a
lonely?
good.
feeling?
That's a good word, spooky, to describe it. Initially, I remember getting out of my seat. Of course, I immediately bumped into a circuit breaker panel, and then I bumped into a crew member. You got to get out of your big, heavy launch and entry suit. And I didn't really spend much time looking out the window on my first day, but you can't help it's so I want to say you drawn to the window. On my first flight, honestly, this is totally true. I looked out the window and the first thought that went through my mind was, the earth is round. Look at that. The earth is round. Imagine.
Who would have
Of
thought?
course, we know the earth is round, but as a pilot, I was looking at a flat horizon my entire career. And now I'm looking out and I see the curvature of the earth and the sunrise coming up behind the earth. It looked like a rainbow. And it
Mm.
was just, it's just beautiful when you throw in the part about floating in microgravity and the fact that you can put your face up against the window and look down at the earth and like you don't even have a spaceship around you. You feel like an angel flying over the planet. And we go around the earth once every 90 minutes. If you could translate that to the surface, it would be like 18,500 miles an hour. So the earth is turning below us very, very fast. And the view that you're looking at is changing. And the last thing I'll say about that is the Earth is a water planet, and it really is driven home for people that are astronauts that are up there looking out the window. Almost all the time, you're going to see blue and white.
Mm.
You're going to see ocean or you're going to see clouds.
Yeah.
And at the time that you do see land, there's always a little contest of, what is that? Can you identify that continent or that river or that coastline? And we like to play games and try to guess what we're looking at without cheating and looking at the computer.
I've actually talked to a few astronauts throughout my, career in the past, but never a commander, by the way. So it is certainly an honor. But a lot of them talk about almost like a supernatural feeling or like a metaphysical type of feeling, a philosophical feeling of being up there and looking down on the planet. And a lot of them have said that it actually changed sort of their perspective on life. Did you experience anything like that?
Yes, definitely. I have two things to say about that. The first one is as the commander, I also flew as a pilot on my first two missions. We are responsible for the safety of the space shuttle, the safety of the crew, the execution of the mission. So I have always tried not to be drawn into the metaphysical, which that can certainly happen. I've always tried to stay concrete, focused on the mission. What are the procedures? Are we doing the mission what we're supposed to do? But normally, for a commander, towards the end of the flight, are complete. Your crew is fine. Everybody's healthy. That's when I would take the time to really think about what was going on, big picture. I remember one time thinking we should send old people to space because they could do everything up here. I remember my grandmother having trouble getting out of the car. Well, if she was in space, she could do everything. But as far as, did it change me? Yes, without a doubt. Trivial things don't bother me anymore. And I think I have learned to be more of a low stress person and like not sweating the small stuff and really thinking about what's important and thinking more strategically in the way I conduct myself every day.
Have to ask before we conclude everything here. Um, about extraterrestrials, UFOs. Everyone was kind of discussing this stuff
I
in
really
stereo
wanted to get into
beforehand.
that because I read about UFOs and ETs all the time, but I'm sure, I don't know what you can say about it, but it's just the four of us here talking about it. What can you tell us?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked me that because that turns out, for me, that's the most common question that I get, usually after, encouraging kids in school. But I get that question about UFOs and even aliens. And I honestly don't think that the Earth is being visited by little green men. But I do think that there's something going on that we do not understand. Now, if you look at these Navy carrier groups where you have pilots seeing unusual things moving around that, an airplane can't really do, I think that we are seeing some forms of energy that are just shooting around. We need to figure out a way to observe these things and find out what they are. And I know that the US government, along with other governments around the world, is looking at this. And if people want to put private money into it, I think that's a good thing to do because if it is some kind of weird energy. How can we tap into that and maybe use it to our advantage? But I really don't think there's aliens out there. I just
Man.
can't bring myself to believe that.
Well, I believe
Aw.
it. I still believe.
Well, that's okay. That's
Call me Mulder.
you also want to use your imagination, so that's important.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, Colonel Eileen Collins. Thank you for being on the program. Retired NASA astronaut, first female shuttle commander, and author of Through the Glass Ceiling and To the Stars. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. Have a great day.
You as well.
Love to have you back.
Make sure you stay tuned. We'll have more after the break. You're watching American Medicine Today.